Hey, Steve Mignani here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a 1964 Ford F100 half-ton pickup truck. Now, this body style arrived in 1957 and was revolutionary for several reasons. Now, these were made from 57 to 66. This was Detroit's first pickup truck with a full-width hood. In 1957, Chevrolet, GMC, Chrysler, International, they all had fenders that were here and the hood opened with a gap, which means you had to lean over. But for 57, Ford introduced a front end where you just could lean right into the engine bay. Kind of cool. And this cab was basically used with minimal changes through 1966. Of course, 67, a whole new version of Ford pickup arrived. One thing you can tell, 1962 through 66, this little kick line right here. But aside from that, the cabs were quite similar. Of course, 64 does have slightly taller roof stamping, an extra inch up here for hat room. But again, those are the two things that identify 62, 64 up. But again, largely very similar. But something that's kind of cool, this being a 64, the suspension is gone, but this would have had leaf springs and a live axle. Well, for the very next year, 65, twin I-beam would arrive on half-ton two-wheel drive pickups. There it is right there. Basically two beam axles pivoted so that it gave you something of an automobile ride quality with the ability to still carry heavy weights. But again, that was pretty cool. Now the engine on this one is the final year 223 cubic inch pushrod 6, and we know it's a 223 because it has a removable lifter cover down here. For 1965, the 246 would replace this engine with quite a different look on the side, and the valve cover would have a whole different sculpted look. Again, this is a 223 in its final appearance for 1964 right here. So we move along into the cab area, and again, this one is pretty typical. And again, along with the full width hood came the full-width cab in 1957. By contrast, a 56 Ford cab, that classic curved windshield device, is about a foot narrower inside. And again, 57, Ford was the first one in the entire industry to give a full-width cab where that seat will absolutely take three people in comfort. Now, this one is a four-speed manual, but again, don't think top-loader four-speed Boss 429. We're talking here granny gear first, industrial four-speed manual in this one. Now the bed on this is also something very significant. Now we all know that in 1955 launched the Cameo Carrier, which was arguably Detroit's first style-side pickup that didn't have bolt-on fenders and looked very sleek. But here's the thing, the Cameo pickup and the GMC version of that were actually step sides with a fiberglass skin added. They actually had a 50-inch bed that was still quite narrow. They looked like a style side, but Ford in 57 finally gave us a real style side with flush sides and full width 62-inch wide bed. No fake out on these things here. Again, the Cameo had a very narrow bed, in fact just the style side or the step side bed, but Ford in 57 was first in Detroit with a full width style side bed. Now this is an 8-footer. They also had a 6.5, and I believe there was one that was even about a foot longer than this for camper use in 1960 or 57 onward. But again, the utility of this can't be underestimated. And this bed right here saw duty through 1966, and 67 again, a whole different design came along. Now there also were unit construction Ford pickup trucks where the cab and the bed were one thing, but there's a difference on those. The wheel opening, which we can kind of see right here, the separate bed has a squared off wheel opening. The unit construction pickups had sort of a closed skirted look. And I gotta say too, the unit construction pickups where the cab and the bed were one thing were prone to twisting. And when they started to rust, they would really flex and the doors would open up sometimes when you went over an uneven surface. So Ford dropped that for 63. But again, pretty trucks. If you ever see a Ford pickup with the bed and the cab in one, that's a unitized truck from 61 through 63. Now this one here, let's take a peek inside again. There's the clutch pedal, the brake pedal. It's pretty well gutted, but again, bent seat, full width cab all the way across. And the price on this one, base, was $1,964. and that was just $15 more than the step side. So for a comparable strip step side. So again, 15 bucks was the price difference between this stylish Styleside and its larger bed and the step side, which was actually not as pretty and had a smaller bed. But something interesting on all Ford trucks is this. Here is the warranty tag. Now let's read this together. That arrow right there, we look at that. It says F10, that's the F100 two-wheel drive. J is the 223 six-banger, and Norfolk, Virginia, and then 380731. If you'll notice, there's one thing missing on that, very important thing, the model year designation. Well, check this out. On Ford F-Series pickup trucks between 1961 and 1980, there is no model year designator in the VIN. It's crazy. So you have to look for other locations to see exactly what year the truck is. But that kind of blows my mind that there's no, you know, on a lot of cars, the first or second digit or fifth, whatever it might be, is a 5 for 65 or 7 for 67, but not on F-Series trucks. From 1961 through 1980, you have to look at the serial number and its stack sequence to see exactly what year the truck is. I mean, there are bumper differences, grille differences, you can figure it out, but it's weird that this is one of the few cases where the VIN does not have a model year designation. So anyway, that's the story of the 57 Ford on up through 66, very revolutionary truck. You gotta remember, Ford introduced step-side bodies with full width, 62-inch wide beds. It wasn't Dodge, it wasn't American, it wasn't International, it wasn't Studebaker, it wasn't Chevy, it wasn't GMC, it was Ford. So pretty revolutionary. We take step-side wide beds for granted today. But again, it all started in 57 with Ford. Okay, well, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel. There's lots more automotive wisdom coming up tomorrow.